Views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting group. Get involved with Access Fort Wayne and make your own television programming. Call 421 1250 to find out more.
This is your DJ Unga for the Jam Rockin' Show, 95.7 FM on your radio. Welcome to The Consciousness. I am Unga, and this is the show, The Consciousness, where we talk about different issues, current issues, and things you should know about the consciousness. What does the consciousness means to you as a person? Why should we be conscious? So to help me out on this show, I have a guest with me, and his name is Dexter Rogers. Welcome to the show. Welcome to The Consciousness, Dexter. We're talking to our audience, and we'd like to know the consciousness, how you see the consciousness as information, from an information level that our society should be aware of and have the information they need. Are you honest? You see what I'm saying?
I'm not quite sure I follow the question.
People don't have information that they need. They're not aware of what's going on around them. They're like naive. They listen to the radio, they watch TV, and they absorb the word I want to say. I can't say it on TV, but
Why not?
because it won't allow me to. You know what I mean? There's certain limitations and barriers we have to abide by. But give me your spin on it. Now you understand what I'm...
I think I have a better idea of what you're trying to ask.
Yeah.
First of all, you're talking to someone who is not dependent on the media for information. I operate on a different parallel and vantage point. The media, as it's currently constructed, is constructed to fuel and maintain and continue white supremacy. Mm-hmm. All right? In order to access the so-called proper education, you have to operate outside the realms of the media, and you have to find out information for yourself. You can't depend on the school systems, mm-hmm. because they're miniature, I will call concentration camps, to teach you how to be robotic and be subservient to white supremacy.
To fit into the system that we are trapped in.
Yes. So what I do personally is depend on self-education, self-development, spiritual guidance, the library, books, reading. There's a reason why whites on a plantation made it against the law for us to read and write, because they understand that reading and writing is the key. Once you become literate, you begin to ask questions. Once you begin to ask questions, then you get answers. Once you get those answers and you look at your current condition, then that you have the impetus to construct a plan to eradicate yourself from the horrific, oppressive conditions that people that look like me and you are currently in.
Oh, okay. Well, let me jump in here for a little bit. In the country I was born, which is Jamaica, we had a revolution that gave us freedom, the slaves at the time, freedom. And Paul Bogle was a Baptist deacon, a slave that learned how to read. And because of learning to read, he could rile his people up to know that, you know what, slavery was abolished, but people are still under slavery out there because they didn't know. It was in the papers and they didn't know. Well, our papers came from England, which would take maybe 2-3 months on a ship to get there. That's how our information came. The information came to the slaves at the time, or at church, and the preacher would, keep them up to speed on current event. So that's how they got their information. And because he learned how to read, he gained power, enough power to have a revolution to get the whole of the slaves in the country to react and gain their freedom. So they demanded their freedom and got their freedom, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm totally aware of that. But it starts on an individual level.
Mm-hmm.
In order to aggregate with others, you must have a common goal in which to rally around and upon.
Mm-hmm.
The current conditions as they are today, we don't have any semblance of normalcy with respect to coming together because we are still divided. The reason why we are divided is because of white supremacy, racism, and we have issues within our own so-called race that we need to address. We don't want to see each other prosper and elevate out of jealousy, spite, deceit, fueled by,
ignorance.
fueled by our oppressor.
Mm-hmm.
So until we deal with all of those elements simultaneously and concurrently, we will still remain in the same condition that we're in now. But it must start at an individual level and then graduate towards, uniting with others who have the same type of vibe, energy, the same type of goals and aspirations to do things the right way. What's right for me is to have my life embodied in spirit, to rely upon spirit, to continue to self-educate myself, because I don't need the white man's schools. I don't need their pats on the back to validate me and my existence. I know exactly who I am. I know what type of people that I come from. And I know that I stand on the shoulders of ancestors that were strong, that were the best of the best. I come from good stock. Right? So I don't need to say I went to their schools or I did X, Y, and Z. Many of the things that I have accomplished in my life while in this system, the system had nothing to do with me with regards to preparation for those various goals that I achieved. Many of the things that I've done as a result of my own self-education. I don't need someone's permission, particularly white folk, to succeed, to do the things that I want to do, to accomplish what I want to accomplish. So you have a lot of people who are so-called activists who, as my mom would say, throw their rock and hide their hand. They talk the activism thing, but then when I look at the deeds and what they're actually doing physically and spiritually, it contradicts what they say. So I'm not one to listen at people and what they say. I look at what they do. Actions don't lie.
They speak louder than words.
Well, they speak much more than words, even though words are important, because words precede action. But I deal with people who are on similar parallels, who have similar aspirations. I don't need to be around a whole lot of people. My thing is, it's not about how many, it's about who. And I'm very serious about what I do. I take it very seriously because the conditions are serious. I don't like to waste my time. I don't like to engage in idle conversation, especially with people who are not trying to do anything. I'm about something because I'm trying to do something.
See, what's going through my head right now is, how do we get this information to people? How we rally the young minds, the 18 and the 19, upwards to this consciousness of knowing that they don't need the other to validate them and be on one other aim and going towards that goal to achieve a better society for our people.
I think it comes with sacrifice. But as I said earlier, it comes from an individual level. It starts with the individual before it can graduate to the aggregate. The way that you do that is you simply engage in spirit. Allow the divine light to guide you. It sounds very simplistic, but those are the things that need to be done. All right? I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for others. But I allow spirit to guide me. When I was acting absent of spirit, I would try to go out of my way to help people. I'm very accomplished in several different areas of life. Depending on who you talk to, I actually love people. but simultaneously people make me sick because when I try to show people another way, no money, no charge, just out of the kindness of my heart, because I'm not white, they view the information a certain way. They don't trust it. But if I give the same information, whether it's business, whether it's legal, whether it's personal or what have you, since it's coming from me, black folk on the aggregate are going to look at the information and question it. But if a white man come in dressed in a suit, carrying a briefcase, walking like he got a stick up his butt, and tell them the same information, they will never question it.
Is it about image? Is it about image, or
Well,
it comes to race?
If you allow me to finish, I'll
Okay,
get to
sorry.
that. So once they get that information from him, they're not even going to question it. Not only are they not going to question it, they will compensate their oppressor for that information and won't even talk to me. See, that's the type of psychosis that's fueled by white supremacy and racism that we have to deal with. How I deal with it now is, while I have empathy and sympathy for people who look like me, who are seeking answers, now being guided by the element of spirit, I only deal with people who are sent to me. I look for nothing and no one anymore.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So so from an individual standpoint, that's how I see the answer evolving, because I can only speak for me and my life. That has worked for me. You know, I have spiritual brothers who have been sent to me and sisters who have come to me. Some of them, you know, are white. Because see, when you're dealing with spirituality of human beings, there is no such thing as race. There is no such thing as white supremacy. There is no such thing as ethnicity. It's just a human family.
It takes a revolution to make a solution. Too much confusion, so much frustration. I don't wanna live in the park. Can't trust no shadows after dark. So my friend, I wish that you could see, like a bird in the tree, the prisoners must be free. Never make a politician. They will
this is The Consciousness, in case you're just joining us. And my guest is Dexter Rogers. Dexter, when we left for the break, Dexter had a very important point, which I still would like him to elaborate on and continue. Yes, sir.
Well, which element of the point do you want me to expound upon?
The spiritual part of it, where you said you don't look for anyone anymore. They are sent to you.
Oh, okay.
You see, so I'm thinking here Dexter becomes a teacher, in a sense, when these people are sent to you. But before you get into it, are you affiliated with any kind of religious thing? No, I need to ask. We speak of the spirit.
Yes.
And in that consciousness, I want to know where that come from. It's just a spirit in the universe, that element, or elaborate, please.
Well, first of all, I don't belong to any type of religion.
Okay,
I
great.
don't. I'm guided by the light of the spirit in the universe. I believe in God. I'm a biological and physiological manifestation of the Creator, and that Creator who created the universe. And my name happens to be Dexter Rogers. That's my religion. I don't believe. See, when religion is another confining strategy to place you within a category.
It's another politics.
Right, and I don't deal with that. I don't
Yeah.
do that. See,
Yeah.
as I was saying earlier, I'm guided by spirit. I don't deal with their categories, man. I don't want their jobs. I don't want their schools. I don't want their accolades. I just want to live, through the divineness of the universe.
Divine inspiration.
And respect the gifts that have been given to me by the Creator. The universe signs my W-2s. That's who I work for. I don't work for white folks. I don't work for black folks. I don't work for Buddhists, Christians, Muslims. I work for the universe.
But your business comes from people of all walks of life.
Yes.
Black, white,
Yes.
Christian, Muslim, whatever.
Yes.
Okay. So my audience that is listening, watching right now, probably is saying, well, what drives Dexter most of all? How he gets to this spiritual plane to exist like that, because this is powerful. For you, you're like I can't find the word in English to put it, but you're like a self-educator then, so to speak. And you have found your philosophy and what you do to be very good, and it has proven, you've seen the fruits of it. And how do you do that, Dexter?
How do I do it?
Yeah, I mean,
first-
in the beginning, I assume you have worked in corporate America, before, or been to their schools. There's a school you've been to, in the past and all that.
Yes.
And you have learned to learn what you now know.
No, but that's not, as I said earlier, what I'm doing right now has nothing to do with my elementary school, my middle school, my high school, or my college. All right?
Didn't get it from that.
No, those were concentration camps.
Okay.
Those were teaching me how to be obedient to a white, oppressive, white supremacist, racist state. They wasn't teaching me how to own. They wasn't teaching me about the people and the ancestors that created me. They were trying to deprogram me and make me a robot. So after I was done with all those levels of education, then I would go into that white supremacist state and be an employee for them and work for them and have them qualify me and have them tell me when I can take a break, when I can eat lunch, but more importantly, my worth. All right? No man, white, black, Hispanic, or whatever, is going to determine my value, my self-worth. That's up to me.
They can't validate you
No.
as a human being.
No, because the people who tried to validate me, they had nothing to do with the creation of humanity.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
So why I don't look to them or their system to try to define me. I don't need it.
Okay, you have. Yeah. Knowledge is power. So how do we? Is it important paramount for us to get the society on the same wavelength that you're thinking and the things that you're doing. That would make a better community, a better society, would have a better nation if our people could come together and do that. How can we start in the, in a way to develop that or to get that message there?
Well, in order to reach the aggregate, you first must deal with oneself. In order to be a servant, you must know how to first serve yourself.
Well, you've done that.
No, I'm still in the process of that.
Okay.
See, in spirit, there is no beginning and there is no end. It just is. You see, it's like you building a house and you have a toolbox. All right? Within that box exists different tools. You got screwdrivers, nuts,
Hammers,
bolts,
whatever. Yeah.
Right. I represent just one of those tools. All right? The universe represents the toolbox. All right? If I'm a hammer, I'm only equipped to do certain things. And once I fulfill what I do, then it's up to that nail, that screw, that nut, that bolt to fulfill theirs. So my life shouldn't be used as a prototypical example because I'm just one of many. Okay? Secondly, I do nothing. All right? Everything that I do at this juncture in my life is because of spirit, as a result of spirit, because that's what's in me.
So you become a tool driven by the spirit?
No, I was born a tool, but I wasn't aware of it.
Okay.
Because I was going to their schools. I was trying to be like them.
So you didn't have that consciousness before?
No. When we are conceived, we are equipped with everything that's a reflection of the universe. But it's been infiltrated by the people who oppressed us, more specifically white males.
Because I know we have that in us. It's a natural thing. We're born with all that.
And the key point is that which they try to keep us from finding out, they themselves know that they are devoid of it.
Okay. So keeping us farther away from it, benefit them for their own gain.
Not necessarily for their own gain. First and foremost, their own survival.
Their own survival.
This is about genetic annihilation. See, they got us thinking, us meaning people of color. And when I say people of color, my thinking is on all 7 continents. I don't think about the United States of America. So when I say this, they got people looking like us, thinking we are a minority. Well, for me, first of all, I don't use that word in my vocabulary. Secondly, there are far more people of color in this world than it is white folks.
So how could it be a minority?
Right, it's not a minority. I'm part of the world majority.
Oh, and another thing, they refer to some countries like the Caribbean as third world. How they get to that point? Sorry, go ahead on. Sorry to interrupt what you're saying there.
Well, in terms of categorizations, I've said this several times throughout this interview. I don't look to them to define me.
Yeah.
White folks characterize things because they want to benefit from them and simultaneously oppress us. Many of them know the power and strength that resides within us, but they'll never create a social, an economic, political, and educational system that allows us to understand who we are. Why? Because then they know that they themselves on the aggregate will be threatened. Not physically, but spiritually. Because the only thing we have to do once we come into the light of the truth, the only thing you have to do is just live a nice, clean life. Treat everyone, including them, with a certain type of respect, but not ultimate respect. Because I have no respect for oppressors. I have no respect for so-called the fictitious notion of white supremacy. It don't exist. I only use it as a frame of reference to explain. It don't exist in my psyche, in my mind. Because I know where I come from, I know who I am, and I know where I'm going.
You have emancipated yourself from all that. Yes.
I've signed my own Declaration of Independence, and I've emancipated myself, and I've declared my own freedom. I don't need their constitutions. I don't need their degrees. And I don't need their acknowledgement. And I say all of this respectfully. I don't see, I'm very passionate about what I do and what I say. So for some, it will come off as anger. It's not anger. I'm not angry at anyone. You know, I love myself. I exude love. I know who I am. I'm a servant. I'm a healer. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I'm a biological manifestation of the universe. I bring light. I have love. That's what I give. But some of the things that I talk about are devoid of love. When you talk about racism, that's not love. When you talk about white supremacy and racism, lynching people, police officers killing unarmed black men and women in the streets, that's
Daily.
not love.
Daily.
So I can't talk about that with love. I have to match that with the type of intensity and passion that exists and what's prevailing in society.
Yeah. For all that is an organized plan in this society. That is a plan they carry out. They plan that to keep us in fear. They do that. And, oh my God, that is so wrong. That is so wrong. But you know, Dexter, to me, sitting here is like I'm being schooled right now by the wealth of knowledge and information that you have, you know, and I know my viewers out there too are saying, wow, you know, but, and people, he is from Fort Wayne. It is, yeah, and yeah, so much power exists in Fort Wayne. It is unbelievable. Wrapped up in one man called Dexter. And right here we go get out of here and take a little break right here. And I want to thank y'all. This is The Consciousness. This is The Consciousness, and my guest, if you're just tuning in, it's Dexter Rogers. And before the break, Dexter had some powerful points, which I'm amazed. I'll be honest, I am amazed. But to wrap things up, or maybe this is our last segment, I want to ask Dexter, how can we get all this consciousness together from what you have said throughout the show? How we do it? How we go collectively to move forward into that? How we can mobilize into that? Dexter.
Well, I can only speak for me and my journey, and hopefully it can serve as a prototypical example of what other people may do. For me, the number one thing that you have to have is you have to have vision. Mm-hmm. Then you have to have a goal. Mm-hmm. And then once you have a goal, then you have to decide, this is the things that I want to do with my life. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to give you a for instance. I wanted to become a journalist. Now, what's the typical way of doing that? Well, you go to school, you go to college, you major.
Get a diploma or something.
You know, and then you are fortunate enough to get an internship and work a few years someplace at a small newspaper, writing about things and covering things that have no interest to you. Mm-hmm. After 10 or 15 years, you might get a break, and then you might luckily get to do what you want to do. All right? I didn't do any of that. Mm-hmm. All right? I decided for myself in 2007 that that's what I wanted to be. I didn't ask for permission. I didn't ask to go to their schools. I didn't ask anyone whether it was okay or not. All right? I made the decision that I see these dudes on ESPN, I can do that. And I don't feel comfortable in saying that anyone up there is any better than me. And I don't need to be taught to do something I already know how to do. All right? So I just decided. Okay? So what followed after that? 6 months after I made that decision, the first 3 things that I covered professionally as a journalist was the World Series, the U.S. Open, tennis, and Obama's inauguration. Mm-hmm. Not attending as a fan, but as a journalist with a credential around my neck, all right, writing about how I felt about those events from my vantage point, all right?
Were you with a paper at the time, a newspaper, or
yes, I was freelance.
You're freelance.
Yes. Well, now that we're there, I've done work for ESPN, NBC. Mm-hmm. I've been on CNN. Mm-hmm. I've been on national radio. Mm-hmm. All right, Toronto, DC, New York, West Virginia, LA. Mm-hmm. All right, and I did all of that because I said to myself, I know that I'm good enough. I don't need to go beg someone for their job to say, this is what you're worth, this is what you have to go do, and then come talk to me.
You created your thing.
Right. That's how I operate. Mm-hmm. All right. The same thing with regards to business. Mm-hmm. Okay. I haven't worked for anyone for 24 years. And I will never, and I've said this privately and I'll say it publicly, I will never work for another person to qualify me, to determine my worth.
Are you're in the real estate business?
That's one of the things that I do.
Okay.
So I qualify myself. Mm-hmm. All right? So that's action. You see? But what are we conditioned to do? We're conditioned to rely upon society, rely upon their schools, all right? Get their education and have them qualify you. Right. Mm-hmm. See, I'm free. Mm-hmm. I can go to sleep tonight and I'll wake up the next Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right? That's my choice.
And not miss a thing. For you are your own boss, your own, yeah.
I'm still going to have a roof. I'm still going to eat. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to love. I'm still going to be loved. And I'm still going to have passions. And I'm still going to have all of the things that I have and do all the things that I want to do. Outside of white supremacy, their system. I'm doing it my way. Yes, I'm physically in the system, but spiritually, I'm acting interdependent of the system. All right? So that's the solution for me. Now, if any element or part or all of it or most of it or in its entirety that can serve someone else, that's wonderful. But that's the only answer that I could give you, because I don't have the spiritual jurisdiction to tell other people what they should do. This is my journey. Okay. I happily share it with people. Okay. There's elements of my journey that people could utilize to better themselves, but that's the answer that I have.
So, let me get this. Are you saying people should tap into that spirit that is there?
Well, yes, but first you can't tap into something. You have to be aware of it first.
My next question is how do they know that you know what they have to do to get into that to that level? How they achieve that? I mean, your journey is your journey, but what advice you would have to give on how they could get on their own path? Then
You have to.
what signs they got to read? You know,
You have to abandon fear. One,
off.
just in general, but more specifically, the system.
Okay.
Okay, let's just say when I had that dream, you know, of being a journalist, and said, "Damn, I can do this," and I just went and did it. Okay. Spiritually, I made the right decision, but I was just thinking solely with my mind. I could have thought of 100 reasons not to even take action and act. Well, I don't have the training. I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I've never done this before. I don't have the journalism. I could have made up a whole bunch of reasons. But the one reason outweighed all of the other reasons not to. And the reason why, I have no fear.
Okay. Okay.
That's the first
You
thing
have no
to
fear
make.
whether you failed or not. You're doing this.
Well, right, but see, there's no such thing as failure either. That's an illusion. The only time it's possible to fail is when you quit and when you stop. So I don't know how to do that. So there's a couple words I don't use. All right, I don't use can't and I don't use quit.
Can't and quit. Well, I myself in my life have done a lot of things that I never gone to a school or whatever and learned, and I just, wow, that's neat. I'm gonna do that. And I've done it, and it worked. You know, like being on radio, I never been on radio, and person I spoke to here at WLT say, you can do it. Do it. They say, you believe? I can say, yeah. They say, well, if you can say that, I have faith in myself. I can do it. And I did it. And it happened, and it's going on for a year now, you know. And it's the same with this program. Eugene said, I think you should do it. I said, well, yeah. Yes, you can do it. Okay. And naturally, it's like there's something in me. But I didn't learn anything from anybody for doing it. I just, you know, and whether it's the wrong way or whatever, but it is my way, you know, and this is the way I do it. You
Yeah,
know?
I concur with most of that. But the one part that, and it's just I'm just comparing and contrasting to my journey. The person who told you that you can do radio, you don't need them to tell you that. You was already equipped. You was already equipped.
I had
everything that you needed.
I had it in me
When
already.
you popped out your mom.
Okay.
All right. That's how we roll spiritually. See, I don't need to be taught to do something. I'm already equipped to know how to do it. See, that's their thing. Okay. I need to show you. I need to train you. Well, that's a cop out. All right. Because I come from good stock. What can you teach me? How to oppress, how to rape, how to maim, how to start wars. That's what you can teach me. And that's not me speaking. Yes, I'm saying it. I'm passionate about it, but it's the truth. If you or anyone in the audience can point to any time in world history that the current oppressors in this country and the Europeans around the world have bought peace, have bought justice, have bought equality, name it. Tell me what it is. And I will stand corrected. If you can't do it, don't be mad at what I'm saying. I'm just delivering a message.
Yeah, you're just a messenger. And that's what we're fighting for today in this world, in this society. All this confusion, it don't make no sense, you know. But, you know, Dexter, I hope my audience have learned a lot here from this, and I've seen that. We're trying to get this message out, and I thank you so much for being my guest on The Consciousness today.
Thanks for having me.
So thanks to the folks out there that, you know what you do.
Thanks for having me.
Peace. Thank you. And we're out.
many people can cha-cha-cha. Not everybody can do the twist, but everybody can